Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface with my review of Batwoman Season 1, Episode 1. Yes, the time has finally arrived. On the weekend that Joker came out at the cinemas, this unbelievable character piece of a film that defined what the Joker was in that particular universe. Just mind-blowing, captivating, compelling. Yeah, then there's Batwoman on the CW. It's like chalk and cheese. And one thing I'd like to say, well, a couple of things actually, before we start. First of all, I thought a nice loving picture of Batwoman looking at me with, longing eyes. She's only human. Ladies. And secondly, all of the advertising and marketing that went around this show that showed it off to be this ultra woke, progressive, we don't need no man type of product was just cynical marketing. That's all it was. Cynical marketing for people to tune in and watch the show. Because as you can see from the title of the video, it's not particularly woke. It's just NAFF. It wasn't a particularly good show. There were some bits that I liked, which I'm going to go into, because I do want to be as fair as I possibly can be about this series. There were some things that I liked, and there were some of the characters that I liked. And on the other hand, there was a lot of characters which I didn't like, and the plot, I think, was sponsored by the word coincidence. Nothing happened, and then at the end of the scene, boom, this is how we're going to move the plot on. But I'll get to that in a bit. But it just shows how cynical the marketing was. Because it's not particularly woke at all. There are a couple of woke moments for sure, but it was as I guessed, because I said, what do I think this show is going to be? I think this show is just going to be mediocre. I think it's just going to be a standard, mediocre CW show. And guess what? It's exactly what we got. Exactly what we got. Not horrific. Not good. Very mediocre and wanting is the best way that I can say it. So, let's just get into the actual review itself. It starts off with, I'm going to refer to her as Kathy Kane, because that's what she is. Truly. Not Kate Kane, Kathy Kane. Starts off with her doing training. Nothing of any sort of description, just under a lake that's iced over in barely nothing, so she's already dead of hypothermia, but don't worry about that. All hero films do it, so I'm not going to particularly rip on that. With herself handcuffed, and she's got to find the key underwater in this huge lake. Take the handcuffs off, and then fly up through a hole, which the person blocks, and escape. And she could easily die. And it was just like, this is stupid. What is this actual training for? How does it help? And it wasn't as if the guru explained anything either. It was just like, she was just like, you covered the hole. You found another way out. You found your way up. There was just no sort of description as to what the training was. Never mind. So we see the things that we see. I mean, the trailers basically showed off the pilot. I don't think there's anything in the trailers that you couldn't have just written down exactly how the pilot would operate beat for beat. We get introduced to Kathy Kane's father, who's the head of the Crows, and he's married to the the female, the Asian female. I don't know what her role is. Who's possibly the worst actress I've ever had the misfortune to see in a show. Full stop. Terrible. Just terrible. And the younger Asian is her daughter, and I'm not sure if it's from another I don't know, but she's called Mary. I think it's for another marriage because they've been married for 10 years. So we've seen the dynamic. Right, so that terrible woman who's switching off the bat signal because Batman's been missing for 3 years now. They're having a celebration. We're switching off the bat signal. Batman's left us. He's deserted us. We're getting on with his lives. And we see what happens. We see Alice, who's the Alice in Wonderland-esque character. She interferes, kills a couple of GCPD cops who were going to switch off the bat signal, and then says, ooh, do you think the crows can protect you? They can't protect you. Batman can't protect you. These can't protect you. And then she has her goons kidnap Sophie, who was the black woman in the trailer, who was snogging Batwoman in one of the scenes from the army. So we know beat for beat exactly where we are. Mary, coincidence number one, phones up Kathy Kane on one of those, global internet phones. How she has the number, I don't know. To speak to her in the middle of nowhere. And she just literally says, hey, I just thought I'd let you know Sophie's missing. Doesn't say, hey, we've just been attacked by what looks like a Gotham super criminal, and they took Sophie. No, she just says, hey, hi, I'm your half-sister, or whatever it is, stepsister. And she's like, I know, us parents have been married for 10 years. Which I thought was actually quite a good line, because they have all that exposition to tell the audience what's going on, and it just doesn't sound natural in reality at all. Hi, I'm Az. I am your half-cousin, third removed. But then she just says, Sophie's missing. Bye. No context, no explanation. So, she drops everything. She goes to Gotham. She has her flashbacks, of course. And this is the only woke kind of part of the show. She has the flashbacks. Oh, there's one more. And it's just her snogging. It's just snog, girl snog, girl snog. Whatever. And they get caught by some guy, and you have that bit where they're just like, do you have anything that you want to say? And then it goes off because it's going to carry on that flashback in a little bit. And she meets up with her father, and it's all hi. And her father's actually, her father, it came across as actually quite a decent character in this show than he has in the trailers. Because obviously they cut him in the trailers just to look like white man bad. But actually he's got a little bit of flesh on his bones in the show, and he's actually one of the characters I was relatively interested in. The Asian daughter, Mary, she can burn in a fire. She's horrible. Her character was just annoying throughout the show, but we'll get onto more of that in a bit. And the mother, as we've seen. But Kathy Kane just comes across as such a blank slate. And I know they try to sometimes create blank slate characters so that you can identify or you can transpose yourself into them, so you have your own personality and all that. But she just came across as so dull. How does anyone like this person? She's just dull and miserable and vacant and quite worryingly, 15 years on from the army, still thinking about some girl that she snogged. Think about it. I mean, realistically, think about it. But they were in love as. They were in love. Think about this, right? When I was at college, I did things with parts of my body and women. And I don't look back at, I look back at those, stuff that I did with people. I don't look back and go, I'm going to drop everything. Hey, as what? Catherine's gone missing. Right. I hope they find her. That's what it'd been like in reality. No, I'm going to drop everything and whatever. So her father's just like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll find Sophie. We've got Green Berets here and Navy SEALs and all this kind of stuff in the Crows. And so she goes off and, right, I'm going to try and figure out things for myself. And I think that's when she goes to Bruce's office. And of course, because Bruce is Batman, he's also been missing for 3 years. Nobody's put the pieces together. And she has a couple of flashbacks just to her and her mother and her daughter. And she has this flashback to Batman failing to save her sister and her mother from a madman who was driving a school bus, knocked them off a bridge. She got out. Batman thought he'd secured the car. He hadn't. The car went over the edge. Mother and sister died. And then Lucius Fox's son, I'm presuming, comes in. It's called Luke Fox, so probably Lucius Fox's son, under the guise of Wayne Security. She easily deals with him. She lets him fake handcuff, and she's just like... gets the information that she needs of Sophie being kidnapped, wanders off. Things, as I said, things just happen. And then, I can't... Do you know something? I've only watched it like an hour or so ago, and things have already started to leave my brain. This is not a memorable show, okay? This is not a memorable show at all. So... it ends up with for some reason, I have no idea how she got to the conclusion that Alice was probably held up in an orphanage. I don't know. I think my brain switched off, so I don't know how she came to that conclusion. But she goes to this orphanage, and yes, the goons are there, and she's still as Kathy Kane. And she does the fighting, and I actually thought the fight scenes were well choreographed. Yeah, I know that she weighs, 10 pounds... 6 ounces, and the reality of her kicking these guys' asses is not there, but it doesn't matter. It's a superhero show. This is what superheroes do. This is what heroes do. So I can look past that stuff, and I actually thought the choreography of the fight scenes were well done. They are well done on the CW. The Arrow ones have been great, and there were some very good fight scenes, and I really enjoyed them. And later on, when she fights Alice as Batwoman, again, I thought it was a well-choreographed fight scene. I think, put them together well. And she eventually gets subdued after kicking about 4 or 5 of them in. And Alice is like, she's like to Alice, why, you haven't killed me, so obviously you want me to deliver a message. And they have some banter, which is, again, is zoned out because it was just not, the dialogue was awful. The writing was awful in this show. People weren't speaking how normal people speak, and when people speak so unrealistically, it's so easy to zone out. But anyway, Alice basically said to her, because she's like, why don't you release Sophie and keep me, because I'm his daughter? And she's like, you dumbass. He'd rather have Sophie as a daughter. It's the daughter he's always wanted, as opposed to you. He ships you away from him. You're the daughter he doesn't want. Okay, whatever. So really, it's about Alice trying to manipulate the head of the Crows because he looks at Sophie as the daughter he always wanted, as opposed to the daughter he doesn't want and the daughter that's dead. And anyway, she goes back to the Wayne offices. Again, I can't remember why. Stuff just happens. I told you, stuff just happens in this show. Oh, yes. No, wait. Alice knocks her over the head. And then she wakes up in some back street hospital, Like, back street abortion clinic. Yellow. It felt like one of those, and it was her friend, her stepsister, whatever, Mary. She's like, "Oh, I'm running this." Who comes across as ditzy as hell and self-absorbed and all this kind of stuff, but she's like, "I run this backstreet hospital, helping out the homeless and people," and You got dumped on our doorstep or some shit. And it's like, oh, right. They want this ditzy, horrible character that you just want to punch in the face. You want her as the Dr. Leslie Tompkins? Oh, man. When you could have had Dr. Leslie Tompkins, which would have been so much better. Which was like, okay. And she patches her up and ships her off. So anyway, she goes back to Bruce's office, realizes that Bruce's mother's pearls are out of place, puts them back in. Luke Fox is like, stop it, don't, twists it. Batcave opens down. Whoa, Batcave, Bruce is Batman. Now, how can I reconcile the fact that I love Bruce, but I hate Batman? Because Batman didn't save my family, but I love Bruce because Bruce is my cousin. He was always good to me. He always looked after me. And then she realizes why. And then it gets explained that Bruce couldn't understand why the car went over the edge. He used the correct traction on the cables that he used to hold the car up. Why the car fell down, he didn't understand. And then he went off after the crazy school bus and saved like 36 kids from this crazy person driving the school bus. So it wasn't a matter of him abandoning the car. He thought he'd perfectly secured it, and Luke Fox was like, it drove him. He couldn't understand. He always tried to find out why the mistake was made. And then we get the bit where she sees the bat suit, and she's, we have the suit is literal perfection.
It will be when it fits a tiny child. I mean.
We have that bit. Sorry, did I play that up a little bit? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. And she goes off. Oh, yeah. Then Mary phones her up and says, hi, you need the plot to advance, so it's time for more coincidence. One of Alice's goons just came to our backstreet hospital, and now we know where Sophie is. Plot advanced. Because it's a terribly written show. And so she goes off to save Sophie. Alice does a thing where she's like, I've got a bomb. And there's Sophie here, head of the Crows, to Kathy's father. She's phoning him up, chatty. I am going to either detonate this van and loads of people are going to get killed. Or you can watch as I throw Sophie off a building, basically. Which one's it going to be? Time to choose. And then, whoosh, we see people start vanishing all over the place because Batwoman's in town. And then Batwoman comes in the most horrendous looking costume you've seen. Literal perfection. I have seen better cosplay. I've seen better cosplay by me. But they have a good fight scene. I think the fight scenes were well choreographed. She ends up having to make a choice of apprehending Alice or saving Sophie. She saves Sophie. Now, I gotta say, I like the character of Sophie. Sophie seemed to have a little bit about her because we had another flashback to they were both given pieces of paper to sign saying that, Sophie and Kathy Kane are not involved in any sort of homosexual activity at all. If they want to stay in the army. And Kathy Kane was like, crunched hers up, and she's like, just go kiss my ass if they want me to sign that. I expect you did the same. And Sophie's just like, nope. Nope. I signed it, and I gave it to them because I really want a career in the military. And I rather like that because A, it showed a little bit of complexity. B, it showed that somebody was willing to compromise their own morality and principles because they wanted something. And, it wasn't black and white. Clearly they were gay. But, unfortunately, as we've seen time and time again, we have, bearing in mind, of course, sorry, I'm going off on little tangents here and there, but we have this woke press of today, yeah, that's always like, oh, celebrate gay. And you have actors who are very worried about getting outed. Because if they're outed, they will lose roles. If you've got a leading man who, stars in a lot of films, his job is to be buff, act sexy, get the girl, and then he's outed as gay, his roles as that leading man in Hollywood are unfortunately just going to evaporate. And so they're very concerned. And so, like I said, it was interesting to see a character who was like, I need to cover this up for the sake of the military so I can go on. And then what is even more interesting is it seems to be something which Sophie has kept her whole life. It wasn't just for the military. It's somebody who maybe wanted to remain in the closet, as many, many people have throughout their lives. As we discover once she got rescued, she's married to a chappie. She's married to a guy. So I thought, there's a little bit of complexity about Sophie. There's a little bit going on there, and that could be relatively interesting. Oh my God, and I'm a white man. But that was pretty much the show. And then at the end, excuse me, Kathy makes a realization that the knife that she managed to get off Alice during a fight has a jewel on it. The same jewel that she has on a necklace that her sister had. Oh my God, Alice is actually her sister that she thought was dead. Which a lot of people knew anyway because of the comics. Wow, major revelation. And that was it. And it was a pretty boring pilot. At the end, we get the voice of Vesper Fairchild, who's played by some horrendous news anchor in America for extra woke points, who naughty CW. Remember, you're a big believer in segregation. You know, gay people should play gay roles. Black people should be written by black people. You're believing that. That woman is gay, and she's playing Vesper Fairchild, who's heterosexual. Naughty. You broke your own segregation rules. But yeah, the show was just naff. It wasn't very good. Kathy Kane wasn't a very good... Ruby Rose wasn't a very good Batwoman in terms of characterization. There's nothing about her. There's nothing about that character which I liked. You know, her father, I saw bits in her father which were quite interesting. He tried to be hard-nosed, but at the same time you saw that he clearly had this love for a daughter that he was constantly pushing away. And you knew there was something else about him. And then Sophie, who I thought was the most interesting character in the whole show, who was her former lover back in the military, she had a lot about her. The Mary character, awful. The mother character, fuck off. And they were probably... And then the Luke Fox character, nothing about him. No personality. You can't give black people personalities, you see. You can't, because what if you give them the wrong personality? Oh my God, backlash! So they just have to be these vacant, oopsie-doozy type of, boring, bland people, because you can't dare put a personality on them. Heaven forbid. Oh my God. So yeah, the wokeness of it didn't exist. It was there for a couple of smidgens of the episode. It's just a very boring, average show. Can I wait for episode 2? I can wait quite happily. You know, there was nothing in that first episode which was just like, ooh, really want to know where this is going. Really want to see the next episode. There was no hook. There was no excitement to see the next one. Bland und boring. With some pretty poor characters and a very coincidental plot that just happened because they wanted to. But there you go. So, hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up. And also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links there in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.